everybody. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sistas podcast, where we give you our point of view. I'm your host, Tamia Harper. I'm joined today by my sisters, Sabrina Wood.
Whoop, whoop.
And Fran T.
As always, what's happening?
As always, Fran, what's happening is that we got a great show for you. We are proud members of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and we are here today with somebody who's become a friend of ours, somebody who we admire and just adore to pieces. You will know him from so much. If you've ever played a video game in recent history, you've heard his voice. Okay, I'm not even going to go through the whole list because it's like ridiculously long. The man has been leads everywhere. He's a performance capture artist. He's an incredible actor. He's an incredible voice actor. He's a director. He's a writer. The man does everything. Woo. He's super talented. But we Trekkies, we know him and we love him. The main role that we love is Locke from season 5
yes.
of Star Trek Discovery. We're talking about, if you haven't guessed it, none other than Mr. Elias Toufexis. Welcome to the show.
Yay!
Hello, ladies.
Yay! Hi!
Hi.
Only time I cried when the villain died.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's good. He's not a villain.
He wasn't a villain at that point. He turned at that point.
He did try to kill an entire village of innocent people,
Yeah,
but
there was
doesn't
that.
mean he's evil.
Well, he didn't. Yeah.
There was
But
that.
before we get to that, I like cold.
Oh man.
Oh, Cole.
I like cold.
So I have an interesting story about. I have an interesting story about that. If you want me to tell you.
Yes, we do.
Please, because I like cold.
So I'm a giant. Cold is the character I played on the 3rd episode of Discovery altogether. The first character I played on the show. And I'm a giant Star Trek fan, as you all know. And I was living in Toronto at the time. And first I hear that they're making a new Star Trek show, so I'm already freaking out, and I'm really excited. Then I hear they're shooting it in Toronto. So now I'm getting emails from family, and like, they're shooting stuff. You know how much you love Star Trek. They're shooting it in Toronto, and you live there. Like immediately on the phone to my agent, and I call and I said, "You got to get me on the show." At that point in my career, and even still, like I have kind of a rule where I'm at the point in my career where I do guest star and above. Like it has to be guest star or recurring or something big, so I'm not, I don't have time to spend to do these tiny roles anymore. I just can't afford it. So I said to my agent, "You got to get me on. You got to get me on the show." And to his credit, he got me an audition, and it said guest star, right? That's what it said on the audition. So I auditioned for it, got the role. Of course, the audition sides, the script that they give you are not what the actual show is.
Right.
Because of security reasons, especially when it first was starting. It's very, very specific. So I went in, I auditioned. I didn't know what it was, but I did well enough that I got the role. I was so excited. I was so happy. I remember I was grocery shopping when my agent called me. And for some reason, it seared in my head, like that I had like a box of mac and cheese for my kids. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be on Star Trek." I'm freaking out. And he's like, when you get home, they'll send you the script. And I get home and they send me the script. And I was only in the first 10 pages.
Ooh.
And I looked at it and I said, "Are they sending me like half the script? Like, what is like, is there more to this?" And he's like, no, that's it. And I said, "But it's not really a guest star. This is barely a guest star." For me at this point, I'd done, Supernatural episodes and Smallville episodes where I'm like, the guest star is the bad guy of the week or the victim of the week or whatever. So that's where my mind went. And it was not that at all. And so I actually tried to get out of it because I said to myself, well, I don't want to burn myself on this show. Right. At that time, it was the only Star Trek show. I said, I don't want to burn myself on the show for this small role. A role I would normally not take.
Yeah.
And, through a bunch of different conversations with casting and with my agent, they said, "Look, this show just came to town. I can't offer an actor a role and then the actor backs out. It's going to make us look bad." And it's like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And then I agreed to do it. I wasn't happy about it. There were pluses and minuses, goods and bads. The good was Sonequa. because all my stuff was with her.
Yes.
And from jump, from day whatever it was, 2 weeks in, she was the best.
Yeah.
Like already the best, right? I was like, I love this girl. So I was very glad to be working with her. And it's super sweet. And we actually stayed in touch after that a little bit. And she's very, very, like, I love Sonequa. We talk about it for hours. But that was a good thing. Sonequa was good. I got to work with Akiva Goldsman, who is a very big producer and director. And that was good. But by the time I got to set, that 10 pages had been cut down to like 5 pages.
Oh, no.
And so I was already, now I was really, it just became like a fight scene, like a couple of lines and then a fight scene.
Right.
And so I was really, really upset. And then when I was doing ADR, they actually cut out more.
What?
So when I went to do the sound recording for it, they made change some lines because more had been cut out and they had to make that make sense. So it went from basically what I thought was going to be the guest star of the episode to 3 lines and a fight in the whole show. And I didn't watch Star Trek Discovery for 2 years because I was so mad.
Oh,
I knew I would just be envious. I'd be like, oh, I could have played this character. I could have played that character. And I was so mad. But when I moved down here, just about a couple of years after that, I moved down here, to LA, and I called the casting director down here who does Star Trek, Orly, and I called the casting director in Canada who does Star Trek, and I said, look, there's at this point now, there's more Star Trek shows, right? Picard just started, and Strange New Worlds was starting. I was like, look, if I can get on this show again, I'll do prosthetics, I'll do whatever, but like, I love Star Trek, and I burned myself on the whole show, and I've been really upset about this. And they said what casting directors always say, which is, yeah, we'll think about you, and promise, and you kind of dismiss it and let it go away. And to their credit, 5 years later, they called me, and they didn't even really want me to audition. They just said, we got this role, we thought of you for this.
Wow.
Both the casting directors. We thought of you for this, and we think you could do it. And I didn't have to go through an audition process. I did have to read some lines for what I'm assuming was Michelle Paradise and Tunde. Like I had to read some lines for them just on tape, just so the casting could convince them. But for all intents and purposes, it wasn't an audition. It was it was pretty much an offer. And yeah, that never really happens in this business.
Right.
So the fact that they did that was pretty great.
That's so cool.
I would have accepted 1 episode. I thought that's what it was. And they said, no, it's kind of like a lot of the season. And it turned out to be more than they had thought too, which was great.
Yeah.
That's my cold story. I was mad at Star Trek Discovery for a long time.
Wow.
Not their fault. It's just the way it works. But like I was really upset.
That's so cool.
How much do you think your particular voice had to do with you?
Yeah, that voice.
Locking in that part, because your voice is just.
I wonder. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it had something to do with it. I'm sure that when I did the reading, they're like, "Oh, he's okay." So he can. Didn't really matter how I looked; they're going to cover my face anyway. But as long as I can look like Locke had to look, big and strong and tough. As long as I can look that and sound that, I guess they didn't care what my face looked like. But as long as I can perform it, I'm sure my voice had something to do with it when they were making their final decision. But they didn't. I think so. They did bring it up throughout the season, like, "Oh yeah, he sounds great and looks great and it's going to be really cool." And so maybe
it was. I mean, it was the voice for me because, you were wearing all that stuff. I was like, what is this girl seeing this man? I don't even know what she's. I was like, it's that voice. It's that whiskey voice.
The sweet whispers at night. That's all it was.
It had to be. Oh, no, but we fell in love with that character. We could see what was going on. But I have a question for you, though.
Okay.
I was reading all the stuff before we were going to do the show and everything, and I missed the interview that we had with you before, so I'm really excited about this. And I just read this one thing where they said you were a clue on Jeopardy.
Yeah, I was an answer. Yeah, because the question is the question. Yeah, I was an answer on Jeopardy.
What do you remember? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it was for a character I played called Adam Jensen that I did performance capture and voice for. And it was something like this character, Elias Toufexis plays Adam Jensen in this series, and then nobody got it right. And it was $500. It was a $500 question. It was the most difficult one, but nobody got it right. But it was cool,
Alex had your name right, though.
Yeah, and that was before, obviously, before he had passed, and he's Canadian, and so it's like there's a lot of connection there. I'm like, hey, Alex Trebek got to say my name, or I got to hear Alex Trebek say my name more accurately. And yeah, I was very, very moved. I got more family mail from that than anything I've done in my career.
Wow.
I could be on the moon, and I would have been like, yeah, I know you went to the moon, but you were a crew on Jeopardy.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's like that's a standard. I'm sorry. Like, if you make a clue on Jeopardy, especially in the, it's just like, I mean, it's on now and it's cool and it's still Jeopardy, but it's not still Jeopardy. You know,
Right.
it's
It
just
does
like,
have a little bit of,
Yeah, and it was your name on the card. It was your name.
That's the thing.
That was the thing. I was like,
exactly.
Ooh.
If Alex Trebek is saying, like, Alex Trebek knows who you are, you know.
I'm sure he forgot pretty quick, but yeah, he was But he did have to learn how to pronounce it. They did call me and ask. They called me and asked.
So you knew you were going to be a question.
You know, it's funny.
How does this even work?
I must have known that it was coming.
Right.
But I recall still being surprised. But I remember like them calling me, and I guess I didn't register. Like, oh, you want it for a clue? Like, I don't know. Because I remember being surprised when it came on. I was getting all these text messages. So I guess maybe I just had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And then that's what the surprise was, because I remember them calling and asking how to pronounce it.
Can I ask you a silly question? Like, well, it's going to get worse.
I draw the line at silly questions.
I know, right? Walk this way. Can you explain a little bit about performance capture work for those of us who might not be familiar with that?
So what it is essentially is like the Planet of the Apes movie that just came out, that was just out. All those apes were done through performance capture. So it's a computer generated thing, but it's basically all of the data is taken from actual actors. So you wear a tight suit and it has little markers or balls and dots all over you. You wear them all over your face, and you wear a camera. In some cases, you wear them all over your face, and you wear a helmet that has a mic and a camera that's literally like right in front of you, like a little tiny camera. So it's they call it performance capture because it captures your entire performance of vocal, facial, body, everything. Bigger video games do it. Like the big AAA video games do it.
Yeah.
And big movies like Planet of the Apes. Andy Serkis is one of the big, kind of guys who helped break the mold of that, because he did Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And it's funny because I would get Varieties once said, Elias Toufexis is the Andy Serkis from Canada.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Great. I mean, he's way more accomplished than I am in performance capture, but it's a nice compliment because I have done a lot of it. I did mostly in games, and I did some on television and stuff like that. So, but I still do it. I was just in Serbia 3 weeks ago, doing some performance capture work.
Wow.
But not like before Vegas, right before we saw each other in Vegas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was pretty funny in Vegas. Like, I was like, hi, Elias. And I'm like, it's Tamia from Sci-Fi Sistas. You're like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean,
I see you at most of these cons.
We have seen each other like multiple times now. But, I just never expect anybody. I don't know why. Like, they don't know who I am.
Somebody, I don't know if this is an insult or a compliment, but I was walking through Vegas and somebody grabbed me and he's like, Terry. I'm like, Terry? Do you think I'm Terry Metalis? I'm like, I'm 4 inches taller than Terry Metalis. But somebody thought I was Terry Metalis. I guess it's the Greek in me somewhere that guy saw through. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, we'll let it go.
I was like, that's weird.
That is weird. But, it could have been worse.
Yeah, no, he's a good-looking dude. So, like, what the hell? It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
mistake me for good-looking people.
Look, I mean, you're no slouch, So
I'm telling you, come on now. Come on.
I mean, honestly, like, you win that one for me. So it's all right. It's all right. Okay, so I need to. Sabrina, you were about to say something.
No, go ahead.
Okay, good, because I brought it up really briefly once when we talked before, but I mean, I know. Words. I'm sorry. It's been a day. All right, let's start about this again. The Expanse. You were my boy. I hated you
Oh
so
my
much when you
God.
played Kenzo. You were so good at that. Oh my God, I wanted to throw your ass out the airlock like in the first 2 seconds. I
Hmm.
was like, it took them too long to deal with Kenzo. And you played the proto-molecule hybrid
That
creature.
was
That
performance
was
capture.
spectacular.
Thanks.
That was
Oh,
so good. See, like now I'm learning to watch
yes.
movement, right?
Hmm.
Like you guys are
Yeah,
teaching me, you, Doug Jones, you guys are like
Doug
real, I'm
especially.
paying attention now,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, I know what these people do. Now I know what it means. And now I'm like looking at all, and you brought that, I told you in that first interview, I saw that in Locke too, because you were performing through all those,
Hmm.
those prosthetics. And the thing that I loved
Uh,
about Locke is like, it was the eyes, like your eyes were telling everything.
that was important to me. Yeah, for sure. That was the thing that I was the most worried about was when when I first got the role, I thought I was just going to be like a bad guy for one episode. They didn't tell me what was going on. And then when they finally told me, no, he's going to be in more and he's going to be in love and they're going to be kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde thing, I started thinking, oh, well, how am I going to like, I'm sure that means there's going to be some emotional scenes.
Hmm.
Like, how am I going to get through this, this like thick makeup and contact lenses?
Yeah,
That
Right,
was the
right.
thing.
right.
Yeah.
And that was what I was really worried about. In fact, the one note I got the most on that set from the directors was always bigger. Because I'm
Hmm.
not really much of a bigger actor. I'm more of like a behind the eyes type of actor, like some
Yeah.
quieter type of actor. And I'm not good at being big. I always feel like I'm being too big. And Tunde especially is like you gotta stretch it out. You gotta be bigger. You gotta be broader. You gotta get through the makeup. And I made him. And Jen McGowan, who directed episode 5, which was most of the emotional stuff,
Hmm.
except for the dying stuff, but the love stuff in 5. I made Jen McGowan and Tunde promise me that they weren't going to either use any takes where I got melodramatic, or they just weren't going to let me get melodramatic.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, please don't just, I feel like I'm on a soap opera. Like you're pushing me to a place where I feel like I'm overacting. And
Mm.
Uh-huh,
they kept
right.
saying like, you're not, trust me, you have to get through it. And I mean, even 5 episodes in, I was still learning. And if it
Hmm.
wasn't for them, it wouldn't have been as good of a performance because they were really like taking me by the hand and going, I know what's working, I know what's not working. And like I said, constantly I would get bigger. You got to be bigger. It's got to come up more. And so I did really use my voice and I used my eyes a lot.
Yeah.
And then when I was in the helmet and stuff, I was using either in the Breen helmet or the other one.
Hmm.
I was using a lot of, kind of like what Doug would do. Um, like a lot of head movement, a lot of body movement to try to get that through.
Yes.
Um, it wasn't easy. It was fun. It was all fun, all fun and
Hmm.
games, but it wasn't super easy. Um, but I'm glad it worked out. I was really worried. Every person who saw the episode before I did, episode 5 in particular, I would say, is it coming through? Is the love coming through? Is the
But
love coming through? Is the passion coming through? Do you empathize with this character?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you don't sympathize with him, like you're not a prince who wants to escape from. But like, is empathy being drawn out of out of my eyes? And the answer was mostly yes. So I'm very happy it turned
Oh
out that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's gotta be hard if you're like from what you said earlier, if you're doing acting where you've got a camera right in your face and
Yeah.
every one of your movements is being almost really like captured and magnified, and now you have to do this exact opposite. You've got to act
It's
now
a really
with
good point. I had not even
with the
thought of that.
mask on, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it's like a 180.
I was
Hmm.
doing both at times. I was going back and doing a game and having the
Hmm.
performance capture and then going back to do like episode 7 or whatever, where I had to go the other way. And I hadn't even really, until now, really thought about how much of a change I had to do.
I'm thinking about it with what you just said. I was like, I don't know how okay, I can see when them saying, bigger. And you're like, if I did this when I was, when you were in the performance suit, people would be like, quiet down. What are you doing?
Yeah. I think, to be fair, I think it was always my comfort zone is more of the performance capture stuff, like the more subtle stuff. That's more my comfort zone. So maybe it was a little easier to dip back into that.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's a great thought. I hadn't thought of it, but for sure, I must have had making these switches must have been. Yeah, it was probably more tougher than I thought. Maybe those first couple of takes, I had to get. That's why I kept getting that note, be bigger, because I fell back into my subtlety.
I would have slipped you the note like you're not in the suit.
Yeah, sure. I'm in a different, wholly uncomfortable suit.
From one
uncomfortable
suit to another
uncomfortable.
That's exactly. Right. You were in a suit again. So I mean, this was just like, okay.
Yeah, those Breen outfits were not comfortable.
They looked horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't mean horrible.
They looked horrible. They looked horrible. I know what you mean.
They looked like they would be a lot of work to work in.
Yeah. And
they looked great on screen. Like, don't get me wrong.
And the funny thing is, I was ground zero because I was the first person you saw in the Breen outfit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of the tests and all the things I'd have to every other day I'd be like, we need you to come back in. We're testing this. We're testing this. We're doing this. We're putting that on you. And then once they built the suit, then they started doing it to the rest of the cast. I had to suffer through the original.
You were oh my God.
I was the guinea pig.
Zero for the Breen. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted Lack to come back to life. So, I just wanted him to come back to life.
To the end of the show, I still didn't think that this is it for this character. I just knew they were going to get in there and somehow they were going to bring this boy back to life.
Right.
Because he was such a sucker. I mean, I loved him, but damn, could you fall in love with anybody else? Like just anybody else?
Because this girl is trouble.
Yeah.
I know, but she kind of threw herself at him, so he wasn't going to turn her down.
There's only so many women that he comes in contact with.
There's
just lack of options.
You're like, you like me? Okay. I'm yours forever.
Yeah. But Maul was great, and Eve was fantastic. So much fun to work with. And it was funny. I've talked about this before, but I'm about 10 years older than her in real life. Mm-hmm. And so let me preface this by saying she does not need my protection in any way, but I felt very protective of her. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I was always, it was weird. We'd be out and I'd be like a little sister, like, why are you looking at her? Like that kind of, but then, which is idiotic, but then when we would get on set and we would both go our separate ways and both, she's had 2 hours of makeup and I had 4.5 or whatever. But when we would meet up, she would be Maul and I would instantly be in love, like legit feelings of like, oh, this woman is beautiful and she's my woman.
Wow.
And then the second we cut and she took her wig off and I was like, oh, hey, buddy.
That's awesome.
It's an interesting thing being an actor sometimes because like, okay, this woman I have to be in love with. Well, it's not hard. Look at her. And she's so badass and so cool. And like, so it was a really fun time with her. And we had great chemistry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You did have good chemistry. I mean, you were Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. I feel like good actors will always have good chemistry, and she's a good actor. Like I feel like I can have chemistry with almost anybody who is a good actor. And what I mean by that is if you're a good actor, that means you're open to other actors. Mm-hmm. If you're a really good actor. Mm-hmm. And, and we didn't even need to talk about, do you want to try this? Do you want to do this? We were just doing it and bouncing off of each other. And the way it worked out. I don't even think we got together and rehearsed. I don't even think we did any of that. I think we just did it on the day every time.
Really?
She was on the cruise.
I know. She was on the cruise and she couldn't talk to anybody.
Right. And we didn't know who she, because everything was so secret and everything.
Right.
We knew she was a character, but we had no clue as to what character she was and what her storyline was, anything like that. But she was pretty cool. Well,
no, she's awesome. She doesn't love Comic-Cons. I think she's less of a Comic-Con person than I am. Mm-hmm. Like I have so much fun. I think it's tiring, as you all know.
Sure.
But like those first couple of days of Comic Cons, I'm really happy.
Yeah.
But like Saturday night, I'm like,
You're like
yeah,
ready to go anywhere else.
but I feel like Eve is not really a big Comic Con person, so I don't know how she felt about the boat. But I've been trying to get her to come to these because I feel like more as a package, we're like a bigger
Yes.
sell.
But now, have you been on the cruise?
No, I have not been on the cruise yet.
Oh my God. We got to get you on the cruise.
I know.
Yeah.
The only issue with the cruise is it's like 7 days. And
Yeah.
right, or 9 days or whatever it is.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Seven.
No,
Seven.
seven, baby. Don't be
Don't
adding
put that
any
out
days.
there.
7 is enough. Seven
So-
is enough.
My issue is that I moved down here. I moved my family down here. I have 2 kids.
Right.
So we have no kind of support
Aw.
system here. We have no family that I could drop my kids
Oh,
up
yeah.
with for a week. Like I wouldn't do that to a friend.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's either I spend a bunch of money and fly them to somewhere on the East Coast where my family is.
Or they come on the cruise with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they come on the cruise with me. But then I got to take them out of school for 7 days. So it's a big, like,
Okay.
It's the
Yeah.
there's a bunch of
It's
issues.
a lot.
Yeah.
If somebody says to me, like, this is going to solve all your problems, come on the cruise, I definitely want to go.
Right.
But there's a lot of boxes I got to check before
Well, we'll be looking
Or I
forward
do.
to the day when you're able to come on the cruise with family or without in any kind of way. Because, like, we would love to have you. I'm acting like
Yeah.
I work for ECP.
Yeah,
right? We would love to have you,
Well, and then there were those stars that came for just part of the cruise. That they came on
Yeah.
and then left at certain
Oh,
stops.
Yeah,
that's
which
that's
is-
an interesting idea.
And I hear that's a hard negotiation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Now
that's
you do sound like you work for them.
now I do. Hey, ECP.
But I do love the Comic Cons, and I'm doing a bunch this year, so it's fun.
Yeah.
Creation is doing them. I'm doing
Yeah.
everything except Chicago because I already had a booking before I knew the dates of Chicago or something like that. But I'm double booked for Chicago, so I can't do Chicago. But I'm doing Nashville, Jersey, Dallas, San Francisco, all
Oh,
of the
okay.
Trek events, unless
Okay.
Great.
work comes up or something. But for the most part, I'm pretty much booked on all of those. Nashville in a couple of weeks.
That's awesome. We're trying to go. We don't know if we're going to be able to go or not. To Jersey would be the one that we would be able to do. But there's also next year. There's going to be Charlotte as well.
That's right. Yeah, Charlotte's coming.
That's
Yeah.
a
I'll probably do that
beautiful
one.
city. I want to see. I want to
Yeah.
see Charlotte.
I love Charlotte. I mean, as far as it's just a neat city. It's a lot of dichotomy, but but I also like Western North Carolina, and I like the mountains out there. And Charlotte is just a little hop, skip, and a jump from Asheville.
Asheville. Yeah.
And
I went to Knoxville a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago. That was interesting. I'd never been to Tennessee. It's interesting because it's like there's a lot of great old school architecture, but then there's a lot of, interesting kind of, like there's a lot of history in Tennessee.
yes,
Yeah. So
Yes,
it's
there
like,
is.
it's the one thing about this country is fascinating is the different parts of the country that have different histories. I know it's a giant country, but it is one country. But there's
Right.
some, like Tennessee has a completely different history than the state of Washington does, or up where you guys are. Like New York, I spent a lot of time, not just the city, but in the state. And I love all the history of New York, and it's all fascinating, all the way from the Revolutionary War on, and I love that kind of stuff. So I love seeing history. The really interesting thing is when I go, like I was in Serbia or I was in Greece a few months ago, and I'm like, oh, this is history though.
yes, right.
3,000
Right, you're
3,000
talking
years ago.
thousands of years now, right?
Yeah. Whereas here it's all, hundreds of years, but it's still fascinating. That's
It
one of
is.
the things I love about this. I took the job. I was going to take it anyway. I was going to take Star Trek anyway, but I most definitely had it in my head. This is going to mean Comic Cons, and not so much for money, of course, for money, but also like I get to go to. I'm going to go to.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go to. I probably, unless work makes me there, I'm never going to go to Nashville. I'm not going to go. Like I don't know why I would ever go to Tennessee or to hell. I probably would never go to Florida. But all these things all this stuff takes me there. So
This is true.
that's one of the reasons I took. Like I said, I would have taken it anday, but it was definitely one of the reasons that was in my head.
I think that's super cool. I mean, because we think about like what like Trek has brought into our lives just from deciding that we just want to sit around and talk about Trek, as four Black women, like from our perspective, and the crazy places that it's taken us. And, it's just so neat to look at it and see that from somebody else's perspective. Like, it's the same thing happening. Like, it's still Trek, and it's just taking you to crazy places that you don't, wouldn't necessarily think that, oh, I'm going to be there.
It's more than just a TV show. It's a community. Mm-hmm. Star Trek. It really is. Like the family. Yeah, it really is. Like, every person I meet is friendly and great. Almost every cast member I have met has been welcoming and friendly and super cool.
That's nice.
You get the funny ones. Like, for me, at Vegas, the most fun I had all weekend was every time Marina Sirtis came to my table, because she's a crazy Greek woman. And so we would talk about Greece and my grandmother and growing up Greek and all that kind of stuff. And she's the best. And she says, like, she has no filter anymore.
No, she don't care.
Yeah, so it's so much fun hanging out with her. But that's for the most. I bumped into Frakes a couple of times. Always cool,
Oh.
Shatner and I grew up in literally the same block.
No
Montreal.
way!
Oh, wow!
Like, he grew up.
Yes, he was way ahead of you.
Yeah, like by 30, 35 years or something, maybe more. But he grew up in this place called Hampstead in Montreal. And I grew up in Hampstead, Montreal. Like, literally, I was on this street called Hampton, and he was on this Hampstead. So it was like this corner was where we both grew up.
Oh.
So he was always very much a hero of mine. He's a great actor, but even aside from that, there's a three-pronged thing with Shatner. He's a great actor, so I want to follow, and he is a great actor despite the jokes about him. He's actually a wonderful
good actor.
No, he is a great actor.
There was that. I always wanted to emulate him as a great actor. There's Star Trek, because I love it, and I don't know a time in my life where Star Trek wasn't around. Like, my whole life I've known Star Trek, and I've particularly known Captain Kirk my whole life. And the third thing is he's from literally the same neighborhood. So this guy became kind of a hero of mine. And I've met him multiple times, and every time I have to reintroduce myself. But I don't blame him. The guy meets 100,000 people a day. But he has always been polite. The second he realizes that I'm the guy from Montreal, and we start talking.
Story.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Shatner is, if you don't really talk about his work and you talk about other stuff, he's fascinating. But the second you start saying, I love your work and you're such a great actor, he's like, I've heard this for 96 years. I don't need to hear this again. But if you start talking about stuff that he is interested in, like we were talking about the history of Montreal and the East Coast, like you're saying. And we had long conversations about that kind of stuff. He's always been great to me.
He's a brilliant guy. I mean, he talks about all kinds of stuff. And so now Shatner is my guy. So
yeah, Shatner's your guy. My favorite. Look, Shatner's my favorite because of what I just explained. But I think my favorite captain is Sisko.
See, I was just going to, we were going to ask you about it.
Yeah. I gotta go there, but Sisko, of course, but my captain was originally
for
Kirk.
sure. It's always going to be Kirk.
It's always going to be Kirk.
But like outside of Kirk, it's just Sisko is just also Avery Brooks again. Maybe it's just the actor in me, but like Avery Brooks is such a phenomenal actor, and I just love. He's such a badass. Like, he's the most badass captain out of all of them.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I always loved, like, you remember one of my favorite episodes is the one where he decides he's going to gas the planet when he's kind of having that Les Miserables thing back and forth with
for the uniform, I think.
Yeah, for the uniform, where he says, you betrayed the uniform.
Part 2?
Yeah.
We just had a long discussion about this.
That episode for me, it's like quintessential Sisko, right? He's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I love that. He's kind of like Kirk in that way, but he never had he had a romance, but it was kind of like he was very monogamous, Sisko.
Yes. Yeah.
As opposed to Kirk. And so there was something about him. And also Deep Space Nine was interesting to me because again, growing up with Star Trek, when I was a kid, my dad and my uncles would show me the old show, right? Obviously on before I was born. And I then remember the movies and being just completely obsessed with those, with particularly Star Trek 2 through like 6.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted, I could start from 2 and go to 6. Like
Let's
right
go.
now.
Let's go. Because we could go with you.
And yeah, and so I love those movies. And then when I was young still, TNG started, right? And then, so I was addicted though, and I was watching it as much as I could. And then when I was kind of a teenager, Deep Space Nine, which was kind of a more mature Star Trek.
Yes.
Like I feel like I kind of grew up with it. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
like,
interesting. Yeah,
it's why it connected with me, because every time I'm like, well, now I'm a teenager, and now I'm like, I'm going to be 18, so I'm not. This Star Trek stuff is Deep Space Nine. This is fascinating, and it became that. So I kind of always grew up with it. Star Trek was always there. So I think that's also why I have a particular fondness for Sisko, because it was like exactly what I wanted to be, like a cool badass guy, and like, this guy's the most bad. It was after he shaved his head. Everything after he shaved his head is the best. Yeah, well, that's like he's not captain at the beginning anyway, but when he becomes captain, then it's he's the best.
Gets the pip, takes the razor, we're off.
That's right. Don't forget the goatee. The
goatee, of course. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I wish he would come around. He's really not a con guy. No, he never goes to any of these things.
I would pass out if I saw him. I would literally
wouldn't you? It'd be over.
Yeah.
He'd be like, who is this blithering idiot here?
The one thing I do love, another thing I love about the Star Trek actors is a lot of them are theater actors. They're trained in theater.
We have commented on this with a few people who've been our guests, and we've talked about the theater, and it is so true.
And I love, Shakespeare was one of the reasons I became an actor. I wanted to become an actor. Like I've been spending a lot of time with Armin Shimmerman, who is
cool.
Just first of all, he's a wonderful guy, and his wife Kitty is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a doll.
But
both.
The two of them are big into the LA theater scene, so they've kind of taken me under their wing, and they said, "Well, I'm going to show you this theater, and we'll go see plays and all this kind of stuff."
Oh, wow.
So I've been hanging out with Armin and Kitty, and they've been taking me through the theater scene a bit here in LA, and I talked to Shatner about Shakespeare because he was a big Shakespeare guy. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. If ever I got to meet Avery Brooks, it would be, we talk about theater and your background in theater, and because I do really love it. And of course, Patrick Stewart, who I've only met very briefly, but he was nice.
What Shakespearean plays have you been in?
I got to play Hamlet when I was 30. Yeah, in Vancouver.
Okay. Just throw it down. All right.
Yeah. I got some good reviews, so it was good. And the funny thing about Hamlet is, I think we ran for a month, and only in like the last couple of nights, I'm like, I think I'm getting it. Like, I think I'm really starting to get a grip, like a handle on this. I could use another 3 months of this run before I really, really get it, because it's so complex and obvious. So I played Hamlet. I played Iago. Othello was one of my favorite plays.
Okay.
And Cassius I played in Julius Caesar.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've done the whole thing here. So
yeah, well, I went to theater school. That was my whole thing. My whole thing was theater school first. I was going to do when I was a kid, I just wanted to be in the movies, right? I didn't know what that meant, though. I just thought, I'm going to be in the movies. I don't know what that means. And then I think do you guys know who Kenneth Branagh is?
Oh, sure. God, do we?
Yeah, sure. About nothing.
Yeah.
Poirot and all that.
Yeah, he's great as Poirot. But Dead Again.
Okay.
He did Henry V, and I remember specifically being in the basement of my uncle's house, and he was watching Henry V, and I remember watching it, not knowing what was going on really, but I remember thinking, this is what real acting is. Like, whatever it was that spoke to me about that. And then, of course, I went and learned about the history. And so instead of going to like film acting school or TV acting school, I went to theater school because of that film, because I saw that film and I wanted to, this is theater. This is what theater is about. And so I went to theater school. If I had known at the time the disparity of pay between doing an on-camera work and theater work, I may have gone the other way.
This seems to have all worked out,
Yeah,
though.
but I do miss theater a lot. It's just you don't make nearly enough money to support a family of four.
Sure.
I can't do it unless I could get out of the play if I book something else or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm open to it because I do miss it, but I think I'm only open to a few modern plays, but particularly Shakespeare. If a Shakespeare play comes along and a character I can play, I'd be open to at least, doing a little bit of a run. Yeah, I do miss it.
Oh.
So
okay, go ahead, Sabrina.
I was going to say, what would you think? We got this. We were just talking a couple of nights ago about sci-fi being, kind of like in the golden age of sci-fi. All these shows that are coming out. So, is there any show that strikes you as Shakespearean, like in its storytelling or in its where it goes or the characters?
Recently, I don't know. Battlestar Galactica did that. Yeah.
Whoa!
That was very kind of
yeah.
And The Expanse kind of did that. The Expanse was a little more modernized in terms of character stuff, but in terms of the vastness of what they explore, and the much like Star Trek, exploring the human nature of it all.
Right.
Like Expanse does that very well.
Right. And just some of the tragedies of the Expanse were just oh God.
Yeah, when like when Kenzo died, it was a tragedy. They really should. You want another quick Expanse actor story?
Yes. Yes, please.
I auditioned for Amos in that.
That would have been good.
And it came down, according to the showrunners or the show creators, Ty and Daniel. They told me that it was pretty much down to me and Wes to play that role. And it was, and this is the God's honest truth, it was the first time in my career, because most of the time, if I don't get a role and I see who got it, I usually go, they were stupid. This guy's not nearly as good as me. It's a bad decision. I hope the show bombs. But with The Expanse, they didn't give me Amos, and then they wrote me Kenzo.
Nice.
Because in the books it's all in their head. You can read what's going on in their thoughts. You obviously can't do that in TV. So you needed a character to kind of get them places.
Yes.
So they wrote Kenzo, and they thought, well, let's give it to Elias because he came so close with Amos. And then they gave me Kenzo. I was very happy to get it, and not like the first season of Discovery where I was like super mad all the time. I was very happy to work on the show, especially when my first scene was with Wes as Amos, and I remember looking at him going, I would have cast him over me too.
Aww.
And not because it's better or worse, anything like that. There's a thing that he has that I don't have as an actor. There are things that I do that he might not be able to do, or maybe he can, but there's this thing that he does that I can't do. So that kind of the aura that he had was perfect for Amos.
Yeah.
So I was like, I would have done this too. I would have cast. It was the first time in my career, because mostly I'm a pretty petty and vindictive guy. But that time,
I think the casting directors had to really sweat that one out, though.
I would hope so, but that's why I guess that they wrote me that role.
Absolutely,
because they like good actors, and they wanted to bring me on, so it was nice of them. But it really was I'm like, oh yeah, for sure, Wes was perfect. And I got to see him face to face because we were working together in the scene. And I'm like, I wouldn't have done it that way, and it wouldn't have worked as well. It wouldn't have worked nearly as well. So it was a good choice. It was a good choice by then.
So is there a show that you would like to be put on a cast in now that's going on that you're like, God, if I could just get on that show? You're going to call a casting director and say, get me on that show.
I like dramas. You know what I would like to do, actually? In my whole career, I've done one comedy. One episode of one comedic show. And in all humbleness, I say, I was really funny. And it was really good, and I was good in the show. And I have not done anything. And that was third job.
Mm.
So that must have been 20 years ago now.
Okay, casting directors, if you're listening,
That's right.
It was
we
a
know
show
you
called
are. Come on, he wants to do comedy.
It was
And
a show called Dead Like Me. I don't know if you remember Dead
oh, I
Like Me.
like that.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that show.
And it was just like a one episode character, and it was so funny, and that it was all about timing, and I had the timing right, and I was like, this is so much fun. And then ever since then, it's just been bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy.
Oh,
That's
Well,
what I do.
not
Not that I
there's
mind. I just want to pay bills, but I do miss doing comedy. Love to do something.
there's the new going to be live action Star Trek comedy show coming
Right,
up.
the Office type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'll talk to
Tawny Newsome.
Tony Newsom next to my seer. Yeah, that's interesting. That'd be fun. I did. Yeah.
Like gears are going all around in his head now. Like,
Yeah. No, I did. You know what's really also another thing is that Alex Kurtzman, he's kind of like the big guy who takes care of all of this stuff, right? Yeah. The czar, yeah.
Bizarre, exactly.
I emailed him after I had seen the 5th episode, and I got his email by fluke because somebody had invited a bunch of Star Trek actors to a thing, and they didn't BCC. So like all of the names were there. I'm like, ooh, Alex.
Wow.
Yeah, I won't say who's to get that person in trouble, but
Nope.
it was like, ooh, I have Alex Kurtzman's email now, and I emailed him after episode 5 to say I was really happy with it and thanks for the opportunity and all that kind of stuff. And he emailed me right back. He's like, I think you're great, and keep in touch. And if there's anything that you're auditioning for that I'm producing, let me know, and I'll keep a lookout. Just the nicest people.
yeah, yeah.
Even in this business where you think it's mostly dog eat dog, and it is. But in Star Trek, there's just like the nicest people. It's a weird thing. Honest to God, I've said this before. Sorry, I said this before. Talking about you guys babbling on. I'm the one who's babbling on. I've said this before, but that set, it was just like, even I was exhausted from 4.5 hours of makeup every day. I was exhausted from wearing it all day. I was exhausted from fighting in it and trying to do scenes and memorizing all that stuff. It's all first world problems, but it was all, all that stuff I was exhausted from. I still was like, this is the best set. Like, I love being here. I'm so happy to be here. I remember sitting on that bed where I sat there for 2 weeks in that 7th episode there, where I had to get, even if I wasn't going to be in the scene, because I'm in the room, I had to get put through the makeup every day.
Oh man, that's right.
Yeah.
So I was like, guys, if you're not going to see my head, do I have to go from 4? Like, yep, sorry, you got to do it.
Wow.
Just in case we might grab something. But I remember sitting on that set. I remember sitting there and watching, like, I think it was like Wilson and I were joking around, and Sonequa was there, and Ajala was there, and I love Ajala.
Oh,
and,
we do too.
Yeah. We were all just hanging out, and I'm like, I would do this forever. Even with this exhaustion of what I'm doing, like, I would come to work doing this forever.
Wow.
Because these guys are just all so great, and it's so much fun. And, it's like, I remember thinking, outside of the makeup even, but I remember thinking, this is exactly what I want to do. Like,
wow.
you know what I mean? Like, in your career, in your life, you get to points where you're like it happens all the time with my kids, where I'm like, I'm playing catch with my son, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like, I think about that. I appreciate the moment, right? And I'm like, I watch my daughter's a cheerleader now for the high school football team. If you're wondering if I'm becoming an American or not. And I was watching her yesterday, and I'm like, this is it. This is what you work for. This is what you want to do. You take in those moments. And I remember I do it a lot with my kids, and I don't do that much with work. Because it becomes work and more about paying bills than anything else. But that day, I remember thinking that, like, this is it. This is the pinnacle. Like, I'm not looking for awards. I'm looking for good people to work with doing good work. And I remember thinking, like, I wish this would last forever. And then I died that episode, so it did not last.
We were hoping it was going to last forever too.
We really were. I mean, and it's Star Trek, so you never say somebody's dead forever.
I'll put on makeup and something else and play another.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Jeffrey Combs played how many damn characters?
I got to catch up. I've played 3 if you include video games.
Right.
Four if you include video games. So
You're
four Star
working on
Trek
it.
characters. Yeah, I got to catch up. I think he's still ahead of me.
So
Just a tad.
let me before my internet gets wonky again, let me just ask you this, because Yvette wrote this question for you about Deep Space Nine, because as we record this, today is the day of the Bell Riots.
The Bell Riots.
What is this? August 30th, 2024, the Bell Riots began. And it lasts like through September 3rd or something like that, 2024. And in the Sanctuary District in San Francisco, and all these protests that were happening. And she wanted to know, what is your take on the parallels between fictional August 30th, 2024 and present day August 30th, 2024? It's a more serious question. And do we need the Bell Riots to get a united Earth?
I think of that a lot because I never equated it to the Bell Riots. I always equated it to Khan taking over the world in 1997. Khan and his people taking over the world. I always thought, did they need that? Or like in First Contact when they say, it's post World War III. Did they need the World War III? Because they say that in the movie, I think. Or at least in a couple of episodes, they say we needed that World War III to bring everybody together. The problem is, and the Bell Riots too, is Star Trek is very optimistic.
Yeah.
And maybe not realistic. And you hope, right? Like I don't want anybody to get hurt and people and riots to have to happen to get us to a place of more camaraderie, and especially in this country. Do we need it? Maybe, but that's like you are all familiar with the Watchmen comic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, was Ozymandias right? Did he need to? Well, in the comics, they put an alien on the killed a whole bunch of people, and that brought the countries together. Do you need that type of thing? I don't really know if there's an answer. I think it's pretty optimistic to say that would work.
Yeah.
Like I think it would work for a little while. Like it worked kind of on September 11th for about 3 years, maybe 2 years.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And then it all came back. It got way worse, than it was. Or you think like the first African American president being elected. You think, okay,
Right.
things have gone way worse, to a degree. They've not gotten way worse in terms of race relations, but inside race relations and people and I don't have to tell you ladies. So I don't know that it would work. I don't know that the Bell Riots would do anything. Maybe that's a very pessimistic view for a Star Trek fan.
I don't know. I don't think so, because, I'm a Star Trek fan, but I'm also a fan of The Expanse, right? And when I started
which is the opposite direction.
Sure.
Exactly. But both of them, they're literally the same coin, though, right?
Yeah.
The Expanse is like the realistic side of me, not even the pessimistic side, right?
Yeah.
Not the cynical side, just realistically. Human beings will take ourselves into space. We are taking all of our shit, all of our crap with us into space. It is happening now. There's literally, the word colonization is happening right now. They're planting flags on asteroids and all over different parts of space and saying, these are our resources and we're claiming them for our people. And that's The Expanse. But I need Star Trek. Right? We need the guiding light to show us, this is how we want to, this is how we should be. This is what we should be aspiring to, that we don't have to accept the status quo.
Yeah. You don't want to remember the can't. You want to remember
the can't.
Right.
They had their Bell Riots. Remember the can't.
Yeah, remember the can't. Yeah, it's true. I don't know. Maybe it's just realistic instead of pessimistic, but it's just it's rough out there. And like things like I should just stay off the internet. Really, it's just, like I'll see like a wonderful video about some amazing accomplishment that NASA has done.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I'm like, look at this. This is incredible. And all of the comments are like, this is fake. This is fake. This is
Yeah,
fake.
I know. People are
And you're like,
so.
ugh.
But it's not, I mean, but then again, I got to remember, like the people who are spending time commenting at first, it's fomented anarchy half the time. Most of the
Well, that's
time,
an
these
interesting
people
way
are
to
not
put it.
even, yeah, they're not even real people. Like they're bots. These are engines of other people create, to do exactly what
rile
they're
up
doing.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like that with I mean, Discovery is very divisive
Mhm.
in and of itself. I do a lot of projects that, people hate on for no reason,
Yeah.
and you just, I cannot think of something, even if I hated a film. And there's some movies there's some Star Trek things that I really don't like.
Right.
I'm never going to go online under a video of an actor talking about it
Thank you.
and go like, this show sucks.
Mm-mm.
I can't get my head around it.
Right.
And I feel like also they would never do that in real life. They would never.
Oh no, to your face?
Yeah,
Oh no,
never.
they're not gonna do it. No.
And so it's like the one thing that has really screwed up the world is the anonymity of the internet.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can hide behind your racist, sexist, not hide behind it, but
Homophobic.
live in front of it homophobic by not putting your real self out
Well,
there.
it can be used as a new form of a white sheet.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel like I wish if Musk would do anything good with Twitter, and I was a big Twitter guy,
Mhm.
I would hope that he would say, you can't have a fake account. Like,
Yeah.
show us your ID, and then you can make an account,
Mhm.
and then you're responsible for the things that you
Right.
say on.
If we have to show an ID for something, let it be for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the consequences, you would get the consequences of your hate speech, whatever
Yes, exactly.
hate speech it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
you could-
people getting canceled may have gone too far a little bit in one way or the other, but consequences are consequences, and if
Right.
as long as it's not, see again, then it becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
Yeah.
well, what are the consequences if I agree with this person? But I think racism, homophobia, sexism, I think that's going to be a line no matter what.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I just wish the Vulcans would come and save us. So.
I know, right?
Yeah, those pesky Vulcans.
You feel like if that
You
showed
know how I
up,
feel about Vulcans, but even I'm looking for a Vulcan right now to come and stop this shiggity over here.
But I'm feeling, honestly, I feel a lot more optimistic these days. I mean, I feel the weight of the things that we're dealing with, right, in present day society. But I swear to God, Trek is like my salvation sometimes. It's the place, we talk about how Lower Decks got us through the pandemic and just having the light that is Discovery, whether I had my issues sometimes with the
sure.
with
So did I.
Sisko, but I never had an issue with the cast. I never had an issue with the production quality.
Yeah.
I never had an issue with what was going into making the show and why it is such an important show to us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I know
so
exactly what you're saying.
yeah, so
I put Next Generation on when I'm cleaning up. Like,
right?
Pluto is the best.
Pluto is the best.
Pluto, yes.
It's so funny because I have them all like right there on my shelves. I can put any episode I want on. I have Paramount Plus. I can put any episode I want on, but I'd rather have Pluto and it cut to commercials when I'm cleaning up and it's just in the background when I'm cooking or whatever. I'm like, ooh, I love this episode.
So you would love the cruise. You would love the cruise.
It's all that, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. They've got nonstop Star Trek on all the channels in your cabin.
Yeah. I wonder if I'll just get sick of it, but like, oh my God, get me off this boat.
But here's the thing,
sick.
like, it's so cool though, because like, first of all, you're never in the cabin, right? Like, so anytime you go in the cabin, you just pop on the TV and you're like, ooh, do I want to watch Enterprise or Voyager? Or, like whatever it is.
channels.
Them on.
Yep, they've got their own channels. You just pop it on in the background, you get dressed, and then like 20 minutes later, you're out of there.
No,
You're
that's
doing
hilarious.
something else, It's a blast.
Yeah, no, I want to go. I definitely want to go. If the stars align.
I'm going to stop.
Now I'm thinking about it so hard because, like, it's the middle. I got till February to get on this boat, and I really wish that I could be on it right now.
She never wants to get off.
I don't. I need a vacation. I'm tired.
Oh, well, I'm the one that usually is tired of it by day 4. I've had enough by day 4. Every time I'm like, oh my God, we get like 3 more days of complete Star Trek immersion going on here. It's just crazy. But you rally, and it's give me more Trek.
I mean, it's fantastic. But okay, so real quick before we go, because it's about time to go, because I'm trying to be mindful of your time and everybody else's time, which I'm not very good at all the time. But
well, eventually it'll get dark, so you can.
I know,
you can't see me anymore.
Is that a mountain lion behind you?
They're actually building at the end of my street. They're spending millions of dollars, and they're building a mountain lion bridge. Because there's the big 101 highway.
I've read about those things.
It's literally right there.
That's
the one
really
in California. Cool. Yeah, because there's mountain lions right behind me is a state park.
Mm-hmm.
So there's mountain lions there all the time, and rattlesnakes and all these other things that can kill you. Because they're trying to get across the highway. It's dangerous. They're building this whole thing not for humans, spending millions of dollars, and humans can't use it.
And some fool. Some fool.
Oh, is for sure.
Okay. Yes, that's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, she got ate up by a mountain lion. You're going to see the video. And she's going
on the bridge.
I'm like, well, that's her dumb ass fault, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, there goes another one for Darwin. Check. Okay, so what is your favorite Trek? Do you have a favorite Trek?
It would be. Yeah, I mean, it would be.
I know Sisko. You said Sisko is your captain.
My favorite. Yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite because there's so much I love about each one. It's funny. I think I would immediately defer to the original series, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you really, it's funny. It's funny when I see people make fun of Star Trek now. I'm like, oh, this episode was terrible. I'm like, dude, there was an episode when Deanna Troi turned into a frog. There was an episode when Kirk and a woman exchanged bodies, like the worst episode ever.
Yeah.
There's an episode with like hippies.
Oh, the space hippies.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the space hippies.
So much bad stuff that when you pick on a new thing. So I look at Trek and I go, I love the old show so much. It means so much to me. But really, it's only like 10 episodes that are really great.
Yeah.
But they're great. But they're
great, right?
Yeah. And I was just watching Doomsday Machine on Pluto.
Oh, man.
And I was like, this is like, it does not get better than, it's like so good. Every character perfectly defined, every moment, every cut, it's just, everything is perfect. So I do love that old show. There's a lot of TNG that I absolutely love. Deep Space Nine, there's a lot that I love. I was not into Voyager and Enterprise as much. I did watch it because it's Star Trek, but, and I followed along, especially Voyager. But I was not like invested like I was in Deep Space Nine and TNG. Also, it was my age. I started going to college, and I was like not really paying attention. But the you know what it is that moves me the most? That is the most part of me. It's the movies. The movies from, like I said, from 2 to 6, and then even into like First Contact is wonderful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But really, like, to me, Star Trek 2, and even if I took Star Trek fandom out of it, Star Trek 2 is a flawless movie.
Oh, it's perfect, right? It's
absolutely and Nicholas Meyer, and I bought his book, and I'm always trying to meet him. He's just like, he's such a good writer. And to take Star Trek, it's funny when you think about it. I always think about it this way when I go, I say, like, I'll watch an episode of Star Trek, like the Apple or like the ones where I'm like, this is the silliest, dumbest thing in the world, you know? Or like there's a giant, I love this episode, Obsession. I love the episode, but like it's a giant cloud that kills people.
Yes.
And Kirk's really mad at it. And like, or like, you know, or the Horta, which again, great episode. You're like, this is silly. This is so silly, this walking carpet. And then you take that concept and you make a film like Star Trek 2, which is dead serious. It's very funny, but it's like a completely realistically played film, which is ostensibly about a man who's dealing with getting older. That's
Right.
really what the movie's all about.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I can't deal with this. My son, my best friend dies, and then I'm meeting my son, and there's a planet that's been created like Genesis, newly born, like all of these layers about aging. And that's really all it is. You have
The
your glasses. Yeah.
Oh, we said that at the same time. The glasses.
The glasses. And
What
you
did
watch that movie and you're just like, really, it's about Kirk dealing with age. All of this stuff around it is just about Kirk dealing with getting old. And
Yeah.
how do you take a show that is, you know, has so many silly parts and you make such a brilliant film? This is why I think I just hold it in such high esteem. But I do think I wish that they would throw, nowadays, especially in the meta world of entertainment, I wish somebody would be like I always wished in Picard when Deanna and Riker were arguing or something, they'd be like, hey, look, I remember when you turned into a frog, okay? Do you remember?
And he was the ape man, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was ape man, that's right. Yeah.
The other day.
Dr. Crusher, do you remember when you slept with a ghost? Do you remember that?
Oh, my God. They don't know.
He had to go there.
Oh my God. That's
So,
for
like,
you, Lambda Quadrant.
Yeah, you can have such dumb things. It's such dumb things and then such brilliant, incredible moments. And they just all fit together. That's why Star Trek is so great.
It is the
The
best.
other day, on Pluto, they did Space Seed.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, man.
That's
And
my
then
jam.
immediately after Space Seed, they played The Wrath of Khan.
Nice.
That's
I
what
was
you
gonna
got to
turn-
do.
I
turn and
pray
look at-
somebody just was just sitting there randomly
Yeah.
and just got caught up because you're taking on like this amazing
You
journey.
know,
And
I'm like,
what a great idea.
I was gonna look at since I saw Space Seed, I'm like, oh my God, and then here come The Wrath of Khan. I'm like, okay, I see what you did, Pluto.
That's so
You know,
perfect.
some geek is running that channel. at
Oh, you
Pluto.
know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Of the body.
Yes. That's what it is.
Oh my God. Elias, thank you so much for coming and hanging
No, this
out
has been a
with
long
us.
time coming. I'm glad. I'll keep
Yeah,
I'll keep
trekking out
bumping
with
into
us.
you ladies. And
I know. I'll
various
ask you again.
cons.
Do you remember me? Tamia,
Yeah.
Sci-Fi
Yeah.
Sisters?
Just come up to me every time.
Yeah, well,
I know.
he does the same thing to Shatner, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do exactly that. Do you remember me?
Look, it's literally getting dark behind you. Like,
It really is.
we got to shut this thing down. Sabrina, do you want to tell people where they can reach us, and if they want to give us thoughts about their favorite Star Trek or whatever else they want to talk to us about?
I sure do, as soon as I find it.
Or would you like me to
No,
do
no.
it? Okay.
Okay, here we go. You can find us at sci-fisisters.com. That's SYFYSISTAS.com. Or join us on the mothership. That's MUTHASHIP and the Sci-Fi Sisters Book Club, both on Facebook. On Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, sci-fi.sisters, and we are also on the platform formerly known as Twitter at Sci-Fi Sisters. For more interviews, the live show, and our infamous Top 10 series, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Sci-Fi Sisters, Inc. Become a Patreon of Sci-Fi Sisters today at patreon.com/Sci-Fi Sisters. The Trek Geeks Network presenting sponsors is Fansets. Go to fanset.com for pins and memorabilia of all your favorite franchises. Visit fansets.com and use Trek Geeks, all caps. That's Trek Geeks, all caps, for your exclusive 10% discount. After listening to this podcast, please rate us and write a review. We just may read it on an upcoming episode.
And of course, we have some associate producers to thank, without whom this show is not possible. We love you very much. Stephanie Baker, Sailor Marj, and Karen Dramera. Thank you very much for your support as associate producers. And last person we got to thank, but not the least, is Dose the Anonymous One. He's our sound engineer, and he's responsible for all the music you hear on the show, as well as the production. And you heard Fran doing his theme song in the background. If you need him, hit them up on Instagram at dose_the_anonymous_1. That's the number 1. And that's all we got this week on this on this night of the Bell Riots. The first nights of the Bell Riots. Here's looking to a better future. We love you guys. Peace, love, and hair grease, and we out. Hey, everybody. Sister Tamia here with this month's Shorty Shoutouts. We'd like to thank the following patrons for your support. Allison Leach Hyde, Mike and Kristen Holton, Ayana May Tom, Casey Shafsky, Mike Nauer, Cassandra Gerard, Bruce McMillan, April Mead, LJ, Tara Jefferson, Holly Smith, Bernadette Garcia Galvez, Rhonda G., Kathy D., Rita Poussaint Nethersole, Marcus Bigham, Mark Richmond, Bill Erickson, Zakia Graham, Linda Anderegg, Travis Taylor, Jeffrey Cochran, Old Klein, Peter Heisler, Olga Kravchuk, TJ Jackson Bay, Liza Albright, Kaylia Zawaki, Sam Droke Dickinson, Stephanie Baker, Sailor Marj, Stephanie Dole, Starbase Centaur 4210 Productions, Jamal Taylor, Scott Jensen, Ann Bradley, J.R. Poole, Howard Hogan, L.M., Timothy Baum, Dave A. Gregory, Eve England, Tefid Balston, Karen Dramera, Sue K., Muhammad Noor, Susan V. Gruner, and Anna Post. We love you all so much and thank you for your support.